What's up guys and gals, Cypher here with another video. In this video we are going to be completing the boss machine project of Codecademy. This project is about creating an API to serve information to a boss machine. Alright, so just to give you guys a heads up, in this tutorial we are going to cover these steps all the way to the, scroll down here all the way to custom middleware and the testing section after this. So we are not going to cover the bonus section here. This was just a heads up, so if you guys are looking for this, it will not be in this video, so don't waste your time here. And let's move on with the video. So we are going to scroll over these instructions. Click here to download the necessary files. I already have them here. After downloading, we are going to go over to VS Code, go to File, and click on Open Folder. And here we are going to select our folder that we just downloaded. So these are going to be the files that you will have at the start. We are going to go into our terminal. You can also open your terminal by going over to the command palette and then writing terminal. Create new terminal. You can select this one, and this will create a new terminal for you. But you can also use the shortcut in Mac, which is the Command plus J. On Windows, I think it's Control plus J. So if you click that, you can open and close the terminal quickly. So after opening the terminal, we can ls to see if we are in the root directory or not. From here, we can run npm-i to install all the dependencies for this project. And if you guys get this error saying versions don't match or something, if you want to get all of the information about this error, you could copy this output and paste it in ChatGPT, and that would give you a detailed explanation. So the workaround I found was going to package.json file. You could also find it in the Explorer. You could find it here, package.json, and then scroll down to dev dependencies section, and then update this version to 4. So right now it's 3.7.2. You could write 4.0.0. This is the screen that you will get once the commands completed successfully. These are going to be the files. So after this completes, you could go to server.js file, write your code to start the app, which is app.listen. We can write app.listen to enable our server to listen on the specified port here. And then we are going to give it a function as a message so that we know that our server is started. And now if we run npm run start, it should run correctly. Yep, listening on port 4001. Something else that you guys should remember is that this version is using, or this project is using NodeMon or NodeDemon, I don't know how it's pronounced. And every time you make a change to this file, the server will restart by itself automatically. You don't need to do so. So demonstrate it. Let's just add a space here, and you guys will be able to see, here is the server restarting by itself. So you don't need to restart the server again and again as we did before. Okay, so after starting the server, we are at implementation details. To complete the project, you need to complete code in a few sections of the project. Generally, you will not touch anything, yada yada yada. In server.js, you will see some boilerplate code, which is this. And set up body parsing middleware with body parser.package. To set up body parser, we could go to npm and search for body parser, read the documentation. So as we learned from previous steps, we could define a constant of body parser and have it require the body parser dependency that we have in our packet.json, because all of these were already listed, and after running npm install, all of these dependencies would be installed in our project directory under the modules folder. We could tell our app to use body parser dot, since we are going to pass it JSON, we are going to pass it the JSON parameter and move it down here and correct the mistakes here as well. The body parser is set up. We also need to set up cores. So the same way, we are going to say const cores equals require cores. We can now also go here and see that we have cores in our dependencies as well. So we are going to say app.use cores. Here we are mounting our API router. So to mount our API router, we are going to say app.use API router at this path. So the path was API, and this one here. Yeah, here it's saying not to use a hard-coded number just because the test won't run. So it's not saying that your server would not work, it would, but later on we have some tests, and those tests will not run. If you want to have the tests run normally, you would have to use the port variable. Note of the comments, we did those. So now we are at the API route section. So this sentence means the beginning of database will be seated every time the server is started. What I think this means is that every time we make a change to our code, the database would be sort of reset back to where it was initially. So for example, if we delete some of the, let's say some meetings and some ideas that we have, we will be doing down here. If we delete some of these elements after we make a change to our code, these changes will be reset. One important note here is that most of these requests are all the same up until here. So the GET request for API minions to API ideas and API meetings are all the same. The same goes for the post requests, and then the GET for a single ID, put request, delete request is the same for ideas and minion. So the only thing that is different is this delete API meetings, where we are supposed to delete all of the meetings from the database. And in the case of these two, we just have to delete one by ID. So first we are going to write a route for these two, a route handler for minions, and then we would change it so that we have to write a code once and it would work for all three of them. That's just a heads up. So now if we come down here, for all API minions and API ideas routes, any post or pull requests would set their new updated resource in the request body. So let's get to write our first route handler to handle this route. So we are going to go server folder, we have the api.js here, api router.get. So this is the route for our API minion. And now we are going to pass a request and response. And our route handler is ready to do what we want. Here it's saying get API minions to get an array of all minions. You could read these as well to work with database. So here are all of the methods that the database exports. We could go to the db.js file scroll down here to the section where all of the methods are. So these are the ones that we are going to be using in our code. The first one is get all from database. So here we are supposed to pass it a model type. So first of all, we are going to import this as const get all from database. I think that's how it was. We are going to say require and the path to the DB file. I think it was in the same directory. Let's check that here. DB is in the same directory as the api.js file. After importing get all from database, for now we are just going to send the hard coding values. So let's just pass it minions as the value and make a curl request. We will get all of the minions. This route handler only works for minions. So if we make a request to, let's say, ideas, it says cannot get API ideas. So for that, we would have to write another separate code and say ideas. Oops. We should also change this to ideas. Now we can get the ideas. As you guys might remember, we had a lesson in Codecademy which was talking about the dry principle, or don't repeat yourself. What we could do is use a method named router.param, and we are going to have parameters here as minions or ideas or meetings or something. So at the first section of our endpoint, let's name it entity. So because this is a middleware, we will pass the next as well as the arguments. I forgot the colon. So here we are saying to treat this first section in the URL after API as a parameter. This is going to get stored inside entity, and we are going to tell it to add that entity at the request object. So to create our conditional statements, first we are going to create a variable or an array of entities, ideas, things. Now we are going to say if, oops, oh my god, I forgot to add entity here as well. So whatever you give the name to your parameter, you should also pass it as an argument to the route handler method, in this case the middleware. So here we are going to say if entities.includes entity, then this will check this entity that would be passed in our URL against this array of entities. So for example, if we pass ideas, this will check inside the entities array if ideas is present here or not. First, we are going to set a status of 4 and send a response saying entity, it's not valid. And at the else statement, we are going to set the request.entity to entity. Yep. And we are also going to call the next function to pass the flow of execution to the next middleware or route handler. Now we are going to modify our code to implement these changes. So here we are going to add a colon showing that this is a parameter and name it entity, and we are going to get that entity's value. Let's name the variable entity. We use get all from database request.entity, and we are going to also send that as the response. So now if everything is correct, we should get ideas here. Oh, so we are not getting anything. The issue is right here. Sorry, it was my mistake. We do not need to add the /:. In the param method, we only need to use it in the get method. Now if we go here and make a get request, we are going to get all of the minions. So let's try that with ideas, yeah. And let's also try it with meetings. So our conditional statement is also working. If we pass it an invalid URL, it's going to throw this error saying that it's not valid. So let's type the correct one, and we are going to get all of the meetings. So far our app is working fine. Now we are going to write the handlers for the post request. We are supposed to write a handler, create a new minion, and save it to database. So if you guys read a little bit down here, it's going to say that minions and ideas routes, any post or put request will send their new updated resources in the request body. So this is an indication that we are going to send our data in the request body, or we are supposed to do so. So let's get back to our code, write api.router.post, and the code is at entity, I believe. Yeah, we just have minions here. So we are going to create a new minion and saving it to database. As always, pass request and response. Go to our db.js file. Here is our method that we are going to use for this. The method name is add to database. We are going to pass it the model or entity type, and then the instance that we want to save in the database. So let's import add to database as well from db.js file. It was add to database. Yep. Here we can name our new entity as new entity and call the new method add to database. Pass it the first argument would be request.entity, yes, and the second one would be request.body, because everything would be passed in the body. So we are going to send it as the response. So if you guys remember, whenever we are creating something new, I think the status code for it was 201, and the message should be the new entity. So for this we can either use curl or postman, whichever one you would like to use. So for this first one, I'm going to demonstrate this using both curl and postman, but you should get comfortable with one of them. So let's switch this request type to post something in minions for now. Minions. So let's go to body, and for this we need to go to this schema section to know what type of properties it would be expecting. So let's copy this, go to postman, paste it here. So we're going to be using JSON. So JSON is basically the same as a JavaScript object. The only difference is that in JSON we are supposed to add double quotations on both sides, and the salary as well would be, let's say, 25k. And if we send our request, we should get, oops, it's saying cannot post minions. I think the ID was supposed to be a string as well. Yeah, it's saying it should be string. Let's convert it to a string. Post something. No, it's still saying cannot post minions. Yeah, the issue was with the URL. We were supposed to add API as well. I forgot about that. Here's our newly created minion. So ID, we do not need to pass an ID as well, because the ID is handled by the backend automatically. So it will create new IDs for the newly created minions or ideas, etc. So let's create a new one without any ID property. Let's say new minion, let's say number 12, and new title number 12, and the salary will be also 12,000. Here's the newly created minion. The name is new minion 12 title, and if you guys see here, we have the ID number 12. Let's change this to get to see if these minions are created or not. So the request is to minions. Let's send the request, and here at the end we have the ID number 12, and we also have the ID number 11, new minion, title new minion. So what I was saying about the database resetting, so right now we have the changes right here. Now if I add a change, let's say I add a space character, and if we go back now, if I make a request of get, the minions that we created before are not there anymore. So the last one is ID 10, and we do not have the 11th and 12th one. Let's also try using curl with this. So in here we needed to pass these inside the body. So to do that, let's go to this documentation. I'm going to provide a link for this in the description. If we scroll down, here it's saying data since the specified data. So in post requests we could add an X showing that this is a post request and a D for data, and then we can have our URL. So here we are going to pass an X for post, for data, it should be inside quotations, minions. It's saying command not found. Oops, could not resolve minion. It's still having issues. Let's change these to single quotations. Yeah, so it is working. So now it's saying salary must be a number. I think we should also set the content type as well, because we haven't specified which content type are we passing to this request. So let's just add another. For now, let's remove these to see if that's the case. We shouldn't change too many things at once. So here we are going to say H and type with a capital T, and it was application JSON. Is that correct? What's it saying? Expecting this of the property value in JSON. So I think we have forgot a single comma in our request. Yeah, here is an extra quotation. Yeah, now it's working. So we only needed to specify the content type in our request. And now if we create a new minion, it's going to be created as new title 12 or something, yeah. Although we specified the ID to be 15, it gave the new minion an ID of 11. So let's make another request of a new get request to minions, and check that our new minion is in the database. You guys are wondering how I got that request. So if you, let's show you guys some command line tricks. I would say if you guys have executed previous commands and it had other arguments, so let's say I have these arguments in this command, and now if I type the start of that command and press the arrow key, that previous command would be in my terminal or would be fetched. So if I press the arrow key continually, it would go over the commands that I have run previously. So the same goes for curl. So if I type curl-x and the up arrow key, I would get the commands that I have run with curl-x. And if I type let's say D, or let's say P, sorry, it was a capital P, I would get this command. So yeah, that's something that would help you guys in the future. if you're planning to use the terminal a lot. We're going to get a single minion by ID. Let's go back to our code, .get, and entity, the name of an ID. So for this, we're going to write another API router.param, and this time we are looking for an ID in the URL parameter. Once again, I forgot to pass that ID as well as an argument. Now we are going to check if that ID is in our database or not. So let's go to our db.js file, and the method that gets something from database by ID. Yeah, this is the method. Let's go back to our file and the import statement, and it was get from database by ID. Going to use that method, pass it the entity and the ID. So now we are going to add a conditional statement checking if this ID is correct or not. Status 404, request no. Here we are just going to say that ID is not valid. If it was valid, we are going to set the request.id equal to valid ID and also call the next method. So this should get that ID from the URL. Now coming back to our code, getting a single minion by ID, because the response of this method would be that element. It would not just give us the ID back. Send a response of that new entity. Where is our new entity? Request.id. Now if we make a request for a specific ID, let's say ID 10, here we have a minion by that ID. Let's do one for an idea. We have an idea with that ID. Let's give it an ID that might not be there. It would say 100 is not valid. Yeah. The reason it gave me 100 and not the whole object is because we used ID here from the parameter that would be in our URL. Write a handler that would update a single minion by ID. So let's do that. api.router.put, and it was at, I think it was entity and ID. Yeah, here's our entity, here's that ID, and let's, if you guys are wondering about this auto completion, it's because of this extension in VS Code. Its name is tab9AI. If you install it, it will do these predictions for you. So coming back to our code, we need to update a single minion by ID. So how it should go is go back to our database and find that method. Fix this issue with its name. It's here in B. Yeah, the issue is fixed. Let's also update this. Let's give you guys another tip. So if you guys are wondering how I'm moving forward a single word, sometimes a whole complete line, so that's keyboard shortcuts. So in Mac, it's the Windows key and the arrows to move along a complete line, and using the Alt key to move forward or backwards for a single word. So something else that that's really interesting is if you use Control plus Alt, you would be able to move inside a whole, let's say, word. If we only use Alt, it would treat this as a single word. But if we also use Control plus Alt, it would go inside it. I think it's looking for these capital letters among these. This comes handy sometimes. So the method that we are going to use is going to be update instance in database, and import the new one, update instance in database. So if you guys remember from here, it was saying that the new in post and put methods, the resources would be in the request body. So we are going to get the new resources from the body. Let's say const new entity is in request.body, and let's also give it the ID that would be inside the, that would be in the URL. .id would be request.body. No, it's not in the body. It was let's give it from the parameter, which would be this one. And now we are going to call our method, which was update instance in database, and it was accepting two arguments. One was for model type and the other one was instance. So the model type is inside request.entity, and the instance is, we could use request.body, but we would not be able to set the ID, so therefore we are going to give posit new entity, and we are also going to send it. So an update, I think a update request would set a status code of 200, and we are going to pass newly created as the response. Sorry, it's not created, it's updated. Okay, so let's update it. Yeah, so that's the shortcut that I was talking about before. If you only use Alt or the Control in Windows, it would erase everything that was before that. So let's say if we are here we only need to erase or delete the entity. If we only use Alt, it would delete everything. I'm sorry. And if we use Alt plus Control, it would only delete them by a single word. So you could move among them as well using Alt plus Control. And we are going to say newly, or we can just say updated entity. Oops. Another useful trick I'd like to show you guys is this one. So if you have two of the same word, if you want to have VS Code find and change that for you, you could go to that word. So let's say we are inside this word, and you could hold Command plus D, and this will look for all of those words. So let's do that once again, Command plus D, and this will add another mouse or cursor word in your code, same as this one. So we are going to click on Command plus D multiple times so that it adds a cursor everywhere in our code that we have the same word. So here we can move along and update this as updated entity. Modify our request. It was X for A. Yeah, let's use this one. We are going to change this to put, and the content type is application JSON. The first 10 IDs are already created, so let's change or update the element with ID 1. We're going to give it a name of new minion ID 1 and new title ID 1. Its salary is also going to be decreased to 1000, and let's check if it is working or not. So it's saying cannot put API minions. Yeah, we also need to add the ID in the request. Now if we make a get request to minions, sorry, let's get only the first minion. We have the ID updated, the minion is also, the name is also updated, and the title is also updated. You guys are wondering how I am here in the console. In macOS it's Command plus K, but in Linux it's Command plus L. Control+L. In Windows, I think you can just type clear. No, it won't work. Sometimes CLS or clear will work. I think those work in the command prompt or CMD. We are going to write a route handler for deleting a specific minion from the database. So let's go to db.js, find the method that would delete something from database by ID, and here we can see it takes two arguments, the name of the entity and the ID of the element that we would want to delete. So let's import it here. It was delete from database by ID, and write a new route handler dot delete, and its entity ID. We are going to say deleted entity is delete from database by ID. The first argument is going to be request.entity, and the second argument is going to be request.validID. I think it was, yeah. Let's go here, it's request.id, not validID. So, and we are going to set a status of 204. I don't know what 204 is for, but we will go with it for now. Let's ask Leo code to indicate that the resource was not found. 200, and also give a message that this entity was deleted. So we can say deleted entity. So I don't think this will print the deleted entity. I think it will only give it object or function something. So let's test this with curl. Our request type is delete. To delete something from the minion's entity with the first or the ID number 1. So if we click enter, it says deleted entity and false. So if we go back to our database, this will only return true or false. Okay, what we can do is give it at least the ID of the element that was deleted. So we could say deleted entity.id. I don't think this would work. Yeah, it's going to return undefined. Or we could pass it the request.id, because this is request.id would be the one that is passed in the URL. So this would work. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It is returning object in the response. What we can do is convert this to JSON, the request.id object, and then it would output it for us. So we are going to wrap this in curly braces and going to say JSON.stringify or parse. I don't remember correctly. Let's use JSON.stringify. Yep. And now we have the whole element. Yeah, because the ID, if you guys remember from here, it was inserting the whole ID inside our request.id. I don't think we need to define this as well. Request.id equals to the whole object, and here we only need to pass the ID of that entity that we want to delete. I don't know why it's not outputting any error or throwing any error saying that it's not it does not have an ID. So we can specify the ID of it, and now if we delete, let's say ID number 2, and get all of the minions. Now, yeah, we have the first one and the second one deleted. Let's also delete the minion with ID 10. And get the minions so we don't have the first and second minions, and also the ID 10 is also deleted. So all of these 5 route handlers have been set up correctly. The benefit of using the params is that now we can also these ones as well. Although we have not coded anything specific for ideas or meetings, but we still can use our route handlers to handle routes that end with ideas or meetings. Or these routes will also work. Let's check those with Postman. Let's get ideas. Here we have all of the ideas. Let's delete let's get the idea with ID 1. Let's post something. Let's get the schema for idea. So we have a bunch of these. Let's go back to Postman to put this. Since we are editing an element in post, we just need to in post we do not need an ID as we were trying for Sola. Yeah, so this one is good. Now if we get that idea with the specific ID, it's going to return it for us. This one's also checked. This one's checked. We also checked put. Now we need to just check for delete. So we are going to delete the ID with number 11, and now if we try to get that back, it's going to say 11 is not valid or it's not available. So the get is the same for meetings. Let's do this, meetings, and it gets us all of the meetings. We are going to post a new meeting. So this one is not done. API router.post. It's an entity, so it's only a meeting. So let's just hard code it. Post meetings to create a new meeting and save it to database. So we are going to give it posit request and response. Use this method of create meeting. We would be able to create a new meeting. So let's say const new meeting is create meeting. I don't think we need to pass anything to create meeting. Yeah, for API meetings, post route, no request body is necessary as meetings are generated by the server upon request. Use the provided create meeting function exported from db.js to create a new meeting object. Yep. So we are going to say response.status 200. If we create something, what should be the response code new? It's 201. Okay. So it's 201 and we're going to pass it the new meeting. Or send it the new meeting in response. So let's use curl for that, curl-x, and it's post, I think. Meetings. It's saying meeting time must be valid. So the reason it's giving this error, what I think, is because the request type and the endpoint meetings gets matched against this middleware, and in turn this middleware function gets executed. So therefore it's saying that it must be valid. Whereas if we go back to db.js and search for create meeting, this function here is not getting any arguments. So therefore we are not supposed to pass any arguments to this. So the solution that I found to be the easier way is to just move this code above this post method or post middleware. And now if we run our code again, sorry, let me do that again. I'll just clear the screen. Now if we make post requests and to the endpoint meetings, we are going to get different meetings with different IDs. So yeah, that was the issue. Before, if you guys remember from the lessons, it was saying that it will match against these endpoints from top to bottom. So first it will check, so this was not a GET request. Before this it was a POST request to entity. We can do this, or we can insert this code inside here and only we add a conditional statement saying if request.entity is equal to meetings, then it should do this, or else it should do that. So let us just remove this from here or comment this code out. And now if we check our code, it should work. As you guys can see, our code is working perfectly. We did not save it to database. This method only creates a new meeting. So here we are going to call our method add to database and pass it request.entity, which would be meeting, and the new meeting should be passed to it so that it will save it to database. And we are also going to send it as a response of our request completed. Now we need to add a route for deleting all of meetings from the database. To our debug.js file and check the methods. We have a method named delete all from database. We are going to import that as delete all from database. Here we are going to write a new route handler to handle this. We only have entity, we do not need an ID. First we are going to check if request.entity is equal to meetings. Then we are going to call that method delete all from database and pass it meetings. And we are also going to send a response of a response status of 204, and to show that no content is available, as the content is going to be deleted. So we are going to make a request of delete to HTTP to API meetings. So it did not return a message saying that everything was deleted. So let's check if any meetings are found or not. So we do not have any meetings. So it means that all of the meetings have been deleted. So to repeat that, just to make sure everything is working fine, we're going to make a change to our file. So this will bring back all of the meetings. We have all of our meetings, and we are going to make a delete request to delete all of the meetings. And now if we make a GET request again, we do not have any meetings. Okay, so after that, make sure to read this and take note that some values could be strings, and we would need to change them between or transform between string and number types to provide full functionality. So that's something you should keep in mind. Now we are going to implement a custom middleware, and that would be named checkMillionDollarIdea. That will come in handy in some API ideas routes. It would be used in API ideas in some API ideas routes. So keep that in mind. Write this function in the server checkMillionDollarIdea.js file. This file will make sure that any new or updated ideas are still worth at least $1 million. By new or updated ideas, we could have a guess of which request type that might be. So a new request would be a post request, and an updated request would be a put request. Add this middleware only to those two routes. Function will make sure that the total value of an idea is the product of its num weeks and weekly revenue properties. checkMillionDollarIdea, which is in the server directory. And so since this is going to be a middleware, we are supposed to pass request, response, and next as arguments. So these two properties are going to be used to determine the total value of an idea. So if you guys remember from here, in ideas we have num weeks and weekly revenue passed in the body of a new idea. For example, if we are updating an idea, or we are posting a new idea, we are supposed to add these properties inside the request body, where we could get these two properties. So here we could say const num weeks weekly revenue equals request.body. So here's where we are going to get these two properties from, and now we are going to define the total value of an idea. It was saying that it's num weeks times weekly revenue, but if you guys remember from here, although it says that it should be number, but just to be safe, we are going to convert both of these to number format. We get passed a string. For example, a number gets passed in this format, it will still change it back to number. Okay, so now we are going to say if total value is more than or equal to 1 million, value is more than or equal to a million, we are going to call the next method here so that the control could be passed to the next middleware. And if it's not over a million, we are going to send a response of others. Let's just give it a 400, and a message should be greater than 1 million USD. Go back to our API.js file and import it as we have imported our middleware. Now we have to figure out where this middleware should be, checking if the idea is worth more than 1 million or not. So if you guys remember from before, it was either in a post request or a put request. We do not need to put this middleware, or this middleware does not need to be checking in a get request or in a delete request. So we are going to go inside a post request, and we are going to add or call this middleware, also put it here. We are going to use curl-x, and the request type is post, and we are going to hit the up key to cycle through our commands. A post request, they have given it an ID of 15, name is new idea name, description is new idea 12. Let's also make this 15. Number of weeks is 1, and weekly revenue is I think it's 120,000. So if our middleware works correctly, this should throw an error. So moment of truth, let's check, and yeah, it's saying idea should be greater than a million USD. So now let's add a couple of zeros here, and now it should, yeah, and now we have our idea being added. So let's also check with put request type. Let's clear the terminal using Command+K, and using the up arrow key we are going to get our previous command that we ran, and we are going to change this to output. We only need to change some, let's change the name to new idea. Let's give it a name of edited. Description should be new idea 15 edited, and number of weeks is 1. Let's give it a value that is obviously less than 1 million. So if you guys remember, we are also supposed to what was the ID number? I can't remember the ID number. Let's quickly idea /12, I think it was. No, oops, it's 4001. So 12 is not valid, 11 is valid. Yeah, so this is the idea that we added before. So the ID number was 11. So going back here, we are going to add this, and it should throw the error saying it's not over 1 million. And here you go. It's saying idea should be greater than 1 million USD. Use the up arrow key, go back there, and let's change this to possibly over 1 million. And now it has been edited. So let's go back here, get that same idea, and now if you see right here, we have some changes made to that idea. checkMillionDollarIdea is currently working fine, but the issue is that this middleware will also run for endpoints other than ideas like meetings, work, etc. In that case, it would not allow those requests to get executed correctly. So that would be apparent in the next phase of our tutorial, which is going to be testing. Middleware is also completed. We are going to scroll over to the testing phase of our project. So it's saying a testing suite, I don't know how it's pronounced, has been provided for you, checking for all essential functionality and edge cases. So run npm install. In the terminal, I already have all of the dependencies installed, so I'm going to cancel this. By the way, you can cancel using Ctrl+C in Windows or Mac or Linux, and you can use Command+dot in macOS. With that out of the way, we are going to run npm run test, and it will run all of the tests and tell us which issues we have with our code. So if we scroll all the way up here, these tests have passed. Here, this is the first issue that has been caused by the checkMillionDollarIdea. So if you guys are wondering how do I know that, by the way, our checkMillionDollarIdea middleware is working as expected, as we have all of the tests passing. To check if these errors are caused by the checkMillionDollarIdea middleware, we are going to remove them for now and rerun our test. So now if we scroll all the way up, we do not have those errors. We only have this error, which might not be that big of an issue. Generally speaking, we are not getting those errors again. So that means that the checkMillionDollar middleware is causing some issues for routes other than ideas. We are going to use Command+Z or Control+Z to undo what we did right here. So what we can do is write another custom middleware that checks if the endpoint is ideas or not. So if the endpoint was ideas, it will call this middleware. But if the endpoint is not ideas, or the endpoint is something other than idea, it will just call the next method, which will call the next middleware. So here we are going to write another custom middleware. It's going to be named by idea. It's going to take request, response, and next, as every other middleware function takes as arguments. And here we are going to check if request.entity equals ideas. if that happens, we are going to return the checkMillionIdea of its arguments passed. If that's not the case, we are just going to call the next method so that this middleware does not get called and our application moves on. In the post and put requests, we're going to change these two to apply checkMillionIdea. And now, if we go back to our app, most of the errors must be fixed. So if we scroll down here, those errors are resolved. And the checkMillionDollar middleware is also working as expected. So the only issue we have is at delete request to API minions. It says it expected 204 no content, but instead got 200 okay. So we are going to the delete request, and here the testing suite is expecting to receive a 204. So we can edit that and send as the message saying, so the test will rerun again. So yeah, now it's saying 43 passing. All of our tests are passing, and the only tests that are and pending are the bonus ones. If you guys want to, you could ask me and I could make another video, but for now I don't think it's necessary. So yeah, that is the project. I'm going to have all of this code at the GitHub page. I will put the link in the description below, so if you guys wanted to check anything out, you could go over to GitHub as well. So this has been the Boss Machine project of Codecademy tutorial by Cypher, and if this video helped you guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.